Hello, my name is Scott Rodilitz. I'm going to be presenting on some joint work with Vahideh, Manshadi, and Niazadeh called Fair Dynamic Rationing. And our goal in this work is to shed light on how to responsibly allocate inadequate supply to sequentially arriving demand. So this is a general class of allocation problems that we're considering that arise in a variety of contexts, and we think our work can be applied in a lot of different settings. But I'm going to motivate this talk with one particular example that should be relatively familiar to most of you. So bring yourself back in time to about a year ago, a little more, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. And put yourself in the shoes of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which was faced with the challenge of rationing supplies across states. Now, there were a few things that made this decision-making process fairly challenging. First, their supply was likely inadequate. They didn't have complete foresight about the different needs, the different demands of states, but they knew that the federal stockpile that they were managing was likely insufficient to meet those needs. Now, in addition, those demands, those needs, weren't known fully in advance, and they were going to arrive sequentially to some degree, and they had the potential of being correlated. So, for example, New Jersey was one of the states that was hit hardest earliest in the pandemic. And FEMA wasn't sure exactly how much need they would have, but the amount of need that they had would be correlated with the need of states later on. Right? If the pandemic got bad, states were more likely to make higher demands. And so this is a somewhat challenging framework within which FEMA needs to make these decisions about what sort of rationing policy would be good. Now, like I said, these types of questions arise in a variety of different contexts. There's just a few examples: natural disasters or the allocation of food in mobile food pantries. And so when we think about different rationing policies, there's a few natural things to consider. One would be a first come, first serve policy. This is very efficient, but it's quite unfair to people that arrive later, to states that are hit hard but later in the pandemic. So efficiency is pretty easy to achieve. Equity is also pretty easy to achieve. You just don't give anyone anything. That's, of course, not particularly efficient. So we want to think about how we can balance efficiency and equity. And in our framework, our goal is to design policies that maximize the minimum fill rate, either ex post or ex ante. Now, in the paper, we design a policy called projected proportional allocation, or PPA, which we theoretically show to achieve the best possible guarantees on both ex ante and the ex post minimum fill rate. How does it do this? Well, it's a fairly straightforward policy. Now, if we knew demand in advance, the best thing we could do would be to allocate proportionally based on individual demands. And so in the absence of that future information, we replace each demand with its conditional expectation. So after observing the first demand, we're going to allocate proportional to the future demand which is expected. And after observing the second demand, we're going to adjust our future expectations and allocate again proportionally based on the supply that we have left. Now, this policy is adaptive, so it is able to take advantage of correlation, but it's also simple and transparent and requires minimal distributional knowledge. All we need to know are conditional first moments. So these are three characteristics that are particularly important in public sector allocation problems. And so it's nice that we have a policy that has these qualities while also theoretically achieving strong performance. Ultimately, what we've done in this work is shed some light on allocative challenges faced by governmental and nonprofit agencies. We've helped show that to achieve equity and efficiency, even in the face of correlated demand, one of the best things you can do is use our PPA policy. In the paper, we have a more holistic treatment, including some additional results on adaptivity, as well as our motivating COVID-19 case study. And so we encourage you to take a look at that or ask us if you have any questions. Thanks.